Head over to BoardGamePrices.com to find the best price on Wingspan and thousands of other games. Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today, we're going to be trying to attract beautiful birds to our aviary. We want to have the most beautiful ones there. We're going to be looking at all different species in the wetlands and in the grasslands and in the forest, and we're going to be bringing them in for the beauty of it all. Today we're taking a look at Wingspan. This is sort of a card-driven engine building game, if you will, where you're going to be bringing these different animals into your different habitats and trying to do different things with them and scoring points in all sorts of ways, maybe predators, maybe laying eggs, all sorts of different ways to score points. But a beautiful thing. Let's check it out. I'll show you how it's played. I'll see you on the other side. In Wingspan, you're going to try to have the best aviary, and you'll do that by attracting certain birds, and you're going to be attracting them by bringing the food that they want to them in order to attract them in, and you're also going to be trying to score bonus points by following different bonus cards like birds that can only live in water, like this one. And you'll be getting bonus points from cards and all sorts of other ways with the birds themselves that we'll show you in just a little bit. Now each player gets their very own big board that is their own aviary, and there's 3 different habitats. Everybody's board is the same, and basically you have the forest here, you have the grasslands, and you have the wetlands. Now you're going to be building this aviary up by attracting birds to these different aspects of your aviary. Now each player will start with a certain amount of bird cards and food tokens depending on some strategic starting decisions, but everyone's going to have some bird cards at the beginning of the game. Now these birds are the ones you'll be adding to your aviary, and each of the birds can be added to different types of habitats, like this one and this one, only the forest. This one can go to the wetlands or the grasslands. So on your turn, you can do just one of 4 things. It's very simple. One thing you can do is play one of these bird cards. In order to do that, you must spend some food. Like this one would need 2 of these sort of wheats here, where this one needs a fish and 1 of anything. This one needs sort of a little bug here and 1 of those. So you could spend some of these to play 1 bird card. So let's say we had enough food to put this bird in the aviary. Now here we have the forest, and this is a forest. Let's say we spend these 2 tokens to the supply. We place it here. You're going to take a cube and place it up here. This is the column. You always have to go left to right. Now you have a certain amount of cubes. Everyone starts with 8, so you're going to have 8 actions the first round, but each round you're actually going to get to take less actions. It's a cool little thing we'll show you in a little bit, but that would literally be my whole turn. I just spent the food, put it there, it would be the next player's turn, so turns move very fast in this game. Now when it comes back to me, I have another choice I could take. I could actually try to gain food from the bird feeder. To take this action, you'll just place your cube in the most right open space in this row, and this is going to allow us to take some food from the bird feeder. So let's check that out. Now check this out. Look at this bird feeder. It's cardboard. You have to put it together, but it's really cool. It has this big backside that you're going to roll these huge dice into. And look at the front side. It even has like the little wooden holes here. It really does look like a really cool bird feeder. So, at the beginning of the game, you're going to drop these dice in here, and they're going to roll out. And that's going to be what food is actually available right now. When you take that food, you can take any one of these, and you just take it out. And when you do that, you'll take that token from the supply, and then you have that food. Also, a cool mechanism here is if all the dice in here are the same, you can pick up all the dice out and inside and throw it back in to sort of reset the food. It's a cool little mechanism. Now you notice we placed it here because it's the first open spot to the right. This gets us 1 food. Well, later on, if we put a bird here, we'd be putting this here, we'd be getting 2 food, and all the way up to 3 food. So you have these little engines that will build as you work on specific parts of your aviary. And some of the spots allow you to do other things. Like this says, hey, you can discard one of those bird cards that you might have in your hand that you don't want to then get another food. And then once you do that, you're going to start moving this cube back 1 space at a time and activating any brown powers. Like this one creates a flock. It says, when activated, tuck a card from your hand behind this. And if you do, you'll get one of those foods. So if you have a card in your hand, you can actually tuck this right behind like this, and you're going to get that food type. Now that's really cool because every card you tuck behind any bird is going to be worth a point at the end of the game. So this is going to be starting a little engine going for you. But every time you start activating, you're going to be activating more birds and more activations and keep getting food. So you're sort of working engines, if you will. By the way, I didn't say this in the beginning, but when you do play a bird, this is going to be the points you'll get at the end of the game. And that's one of the main ways to get points is from the birds themselves. But once you've activated all your birds right to left, you just put it here and that'd be the end of your turn. Now in a subsequent turn, you could spend an action to take this, which is lay eggs on birds. This would allow you to lay 2 eggs. This one allows you to lay 2 eggs and then spend a food to lay a 3rd egg. And as you can see, you go 3 eggs, 3 eggs, 4 eggs. So again, this engine in the grasslands is going to be working up sort of an egg engine. So what do these eggs do? Let's take a look at these things. And the game comes with 75 of these egg miniatures. They're really cool, they're thick, they're chunky, and they have 5 different colors. The colors don't mean anything, you can take any ones you want, but really cool component. So by doing this, I was able to, grab 2 eggs and place them on any bird. So here we have a bird, we can place the 2 eggs here. This tells you how many eggs a certain bird can hold. This one can hold 2, so that's great. We put 2 here, and it also tells you what kind of nest that bird is. That's the middle icon right there. And that's gonna have to do with different things and different bonuses and different engines you may build up and things like that. But now I've got 2 eggs on here. Well, what do eggs do? Well, one thing is at the end of the game, you'll get a point for each of those. There's also different bonuses you can get for holding a lot of eggs, but they're also used to actually attract birds to your aviary. If I wanted to attract another bird to my forest, I would place it here, and I have to pay, again at the top of the column, I would have to pay 1 egg in order to do that as well as the food. So I would have to spend 1 of these to place this owl here. But as you can see, as you go forward to the right, you're going to be spending more and more eggs as you work your way to the right. And the last possible action you have is you can basically draw bird cards. So here, basically here you would just draw a single bird card. Now the game comes with a really good tray from Game Trays that holds 3 different stacks of bird cards in them. And the lid for that actually works as a thing that holds the cards for you. And it has a nice little bird on here. So here's the 3 cards. You can choose one of these 3 to get. And simply you would just draw one of these birds. Again, these birds do all sorts of different things. We'll talk a little bit more about these later. So the mechanism is very simple. You're either playing a bird, gaining food, laying eggs, or drawing a card. Now, the cards here, again, the further you go to the right, the more cards you're going to get, things like that. But the game is really all in the cards and what they do, as well as some of the bonuses and things you're going for. Now, one of the main ways to get points in this game is through bonuses. Now, these are randomized. These are little tiles that you put on here. There's actually, this is only half of them. There's actually 8 different bonus tiles in the game. You'll randomly place them. The game is 4 rounds long. Remember, you have a certain amount of actions. At the end of the round, you're going to take one of your cubes and place it in which place you were. Like, for example, this says the number of birds in wetlands. Whoever has the most birds in the wetlands at the end of round 1 will place it here for first place. They're going to get 4 points at the end of the game, and second place, third place, fourth place, but everyone will have 1 less cube. So when you go to the second round, instead of having 8 actions, because you start with 8 cubes, you'll have 7, and then you'll go down, everyone will place a cube. So each round you're losing 1 cube and getting less actions, but your engine is building up and becoming more powerful. So you might want to start looking at things for the late game or the early game and try to get them fast, and as you see, the points are worth more as they go to the end. This is one of the main ways to get points in this game, but if you want to play a more sort of solitaire type Euro version of the game, you can flip this over, and here you just get 1 point for each of these. So hey, everyone just gets 1 point for each of these, 1 point for each of these, and so on and so forth for a max of 5. So that's a way to kind of, if you want to play more of a game with less interaction between players, you can play that, or you can play it where you're actually fighting for different majorities, which this is the way I strongly prefer. Now, we talked about tucking cards for a flock. Sometimes you can tuck cards as a predator. This is really cool. It's an owl. And it says, hey, when you activate, and remember, when you activate, you're going to be activating every bird in this row. This one says when activated, you'll pull a card from the top of the deck, and you'll look at the centimeters. If it's less than 75, this one's 30, it's a smaller bird, then you can tuck it under this card. It's basically like this one going out and grabbing some birds for food. That's going to get you a point. Every tucked card is a point. So that's one way to get a bunch of points. Again, the eggs are one way to get points. Points are coming from the birds themselves. Now there's 170 different bird cards in this game with all these great illustrations. Let me just show you some of the things these birds can do. Like when this one gets activated, you lay an egg on this card. Well, that's cool. We showed you what the eggs do. This one has, some of them have when you do once in other people's turns. Like when another player takes the lay eggs action, this bird lays an egg on another bird with this type of nest. That type of nest right there. This one says, hey, when activated, gain one of those food from the supply and cash it on this card. Now caching is just a way to score points because much like tuck cards, every time you have a cached food at the end of the game, that's a way to get some engine scoring going as well. And some of them just have things happen when you play them. Like when you play this, you'll draw 2 new bonus cards and keep 1. There's actually 26 bonus cards in the game, and they do different things. The one I showed you earlier was, hey, however many birds you have in the wetlands. You'll get 7 points if you have 5 or more birds. This one says, hey, birds that have at least 1 egg on them. Depending on how many birds, you'll get a certain amount of points. Birds that only eat that food type. And the cool thing is a lot of these will tell you what percentages of cards have that type of bird on them, which is really cool to see. I don't remember seeing too much of this in other games, and it was really useful. Look at this, birds with this type of nest, or birds that have at least 4 eggs on them. So there's all sorts of different goals you can go for. And at the end of the game, you're going to score on the score pad for the scorecards, the actual numbers that are on the birds themselves. You'll add all those up in your aviary. All your bonus card points, the end of round goals that we talked about with the the majorities, and 1 point for each egg, and 1 point for each food cast, and 1 point for every tuck cards, and whoever has the most points is the winner. All right, well, there is Wingspan. Let's first start out with what I liked about the game. Amazing art, 170 unique illustrations of all these birds, and they are beautiful. Each one of these could be in like a bird watching book. That's how awesome and realistic this artwork is, and I love realistic themes, and I love realistic different things. I just love different unique themes, especially when they're sort of realistic or historic, and this does that. I love this game has great production. You've got that really cool birdhouse dice tower. I mean, come on, how many games come with that? So unique, adds to the table presence. The eggs, wow, so cool. They just feel so cool. They look cool. They're heavy. The different colors, they don't mean anything. You just pick the one you want. The eggs are cool. Even the rule book is like a linen finish. When you're reading the rule book, you feel like you have a high quality game in your hand, and it really adds that. Also, the trays that I showed in the sort of how things work with the cards and things, and how the whole thing stores, really cool production for sure. Stonemaier Games always knocks it out of the park, and did so with this one as well. The theming here is just awesome. Again, not only is it unique, but different things that are thematic, like I have this predator. Hey, and when I activate them, I'm gonna pull a card off the top. And if the bird that's here is smaller in centimeters than this, then it's gonna be able to eat it and put it underneath. And it's just like, lots of things are thematically cool in this game, or laying the eggs. It's just, wow, really, really cool job with the theme and making sure that those match the mechanisms. Speaking of mechanisms, I like games that are streamlined. And this is, you've got a few choices on your turn. You've got 4 choices. Pick one. Turns move pretty fast because of that. Simple mechanism, because everything is really in the engine of the cards and what the cards do, and the different actions those cards allow you to do. But your choices are very simple. Simple mechanisms, but lots of depth. This is very high on what I call my depth to complexity ratio. I love that. Streamlined turns, but lots of depth. I like the ramping of the turns per round, where at the beginning of the game, you get more turns because you're sort of building things up, starting to build up your habitat and building birds, but each round you're getting 1 less action, but you're getting more birds. So as the game goes on, it ramps in a very interesting arc. You get less turns, but you're actually getting more done, and I like that arc to the game. I like that the game has many paths to victory and to points. Maybe you're gonna go after an egg path and get tons of eggs being laid because they're worth a point each at the end of the game. Maybe you're gonna be tucking a bunch of cards with different birds and predators because each of those are worth a point. Maybe you're gonna go specifically after some of those different bonus cards. So there's lots of different paths to go, and I like that aspect of it. I like that, this game has been compared to other games, card-driven engine-building games like, let's say, Terraforming Mars, right? And some of those games are very heavy and very long, but this one has less learning curve than those, and a less learning curve than most card-driven games, but yet I don't feel like it suffers at all in the levels of strategy that are there. So for me, I always look for games that if they're around an hour and they're easy to learn, but yet they have a ton of depth, that's my sweet spot, and this game does that. And in addition to that, the cards themselves, of trying to figure out which birds to go for, predators or wetlands. Sometimes you're concentrating on a specific habitat to work your way all the way to the end. Sometimes you have birds that can move habitats. Sometimes you have birds that can go in either habitat. And you're sort of not only just building an engine of cards with birds, but you're also building up certain habitat engines as well to get the better actions. I also like the end of round bonuses. That those are going to change each game as to what they are. Sometimes you're going to be shooting for the one that's now. Sometimes you're going to be working towards some that are towards the end. And so I like that. And I also like that you can choose either to have a strong or weak interaction. So you can do strong, which is all about majorities, or more Euro, solitaire style game where you can flip that board over and then you're just getting a certain amount of points depending on how many you have. And so I like that it allows the players to say, do you want strong player interaction or not? And I think that's really cool. And also that because the nature of the game, it's card driven, it's gonna be very expandable. I can't think of a lot of things negative about this game. It's really fantastic. I'd say the only negative is later turns, once you have a lot of actions, the downtime with 5 players. because they're activating a bunch of things. And by the time everyone activates a bunch of things, there's going to be the downtime is definitely noticeable on the higher player count here. So, you know, 4 players or less, I think it's fantastic. 5, I'd probably not want to play it with 5 again, but overall, I think this game is fantastic. And because of that, it's getting a saxophone serenade. So let's induct it properly into my gaming library. Let's do it. The overview in this video was shot on a Watson model Game Topper. Upgrade every game you play with the ultimate gaming accessory. Game Toppers, shipping now. Check them out at GameToppersLLC.com.